I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to write about my relationship problems online, but here I am. Life is funny that way. My name is Jake, and I was married to Sarah for 5 years. We had what I thought was a solid relationship. We met in college, and the chemistry was palpable. The kind of love that feels like it's meant to last forever. Maybe that's what makes it hurt even more when the bubble bursts. In the months leading up to my discovery, there were subtle signs that things weren't quite right. Sarah started being more secretive. She would stay up late saying she had work to finish, but I could hear the faint sounds of her chatting on her phone, her laughter tinged with something that felt wrong. I brushed it off as stress. After all, she had a demanding job in marketing. I thought I was just being paranoid, but the dreams began. Every night I'd dream of her cheating on me. It felt so vivid, every detail was etched in my mind. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, heart pounding, feeling the betrayal wash over me. At first, I dismissed these dreams as nothing more than anxious thoughts playing tricks on me. It was just my brain working overtime, right? But they kept coming, night after night, until I could hardly differentiate between my dreams and reality. Then came the day I stumbled upon her phone. I was bringing her a cup of coffee in the morning when I saw it on the kitchen table, screen lit up. A message popped up from a contact labeled Mike. Normally, I wouldn't pry, but the first few words caught my eye. Can't wait to see you tonight. I froze, my stomach dropped. I knew right then I was in deep trouble. I picked up her phone, my hands shaking. The message was a breadcrumb leading me to a dark forest of betrayal. I scrolled through their conversation, flirty exchanges, inside jokes, and worst of all, explicit messages about what they wanted to do together. I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. It felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I confronted her that evening. I tried to remain calm, but it was impossible. The moment she walked in, I could see something in her eyes, a flicker of guilt or maybe just the fear of being caught. I asked her about Mike, my voice shaking slightly. She laughed it off, saying he was just a colleague who was a little too friendly. I pressed harder, showing her the messages. To my shock, her demeanor shifted instantly. She went from giggling to defensive, her tone icy. "You're reading too much into this, Jake. It's just harmless flirtation. I love you." It was the same old line, her voice dripping with insincerity. I don't know what hurt more, her lies or the realization that I had let myself be naive for so long. The emotional roller coaster that followed was intense. I was furious, heartbroken, and lost all at once. The dreams I'd had, the signs I'd ignored, it all started to flood back, hitting me like waves. I felt betrayed not just by her actions, but by the illusion of our life together. How did I not see this coming? As the confrontation continued, I felt anger boil inside me. I thought about how often she had dismissed my feelings, how she twisted every situation to make me feel guilty for questioning her. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her understand how deeply she had hurt me, but instead I felt hollow. Through the tears and the shouting, we both knew something had cracked in our marriage. The foundation was no longer strong, and I had to decide what came next. I couldn't imagine living in a marriage built on lies. There was a part of me that still loved her and wanted to fix things, but the other half screamed for revenge, for justice. What happens next is something I never thought I'd have to face. I was at a crossroads. I had to choose. Would I fight for my marriage, or would I walk away, leaving behind the dreams of what we could have been? As I sat there, emotions swirling, I knew I had to make a decision, one that would change everything. The days that followed felt like a fog, each one blending into the next. I went through the motions of life, work, eating, sleeping, but my mind was consumed by thoughts of Sarah and the betrayal. I barely spoke to her, and when I did, it was only to ask about mundane things, as if we were mere roommates instead of a married couple. The emotional distance grew, and it was suffocating. I found myself obsessively replaying our past in my mind. Every little moment that seemed innocent now felt tainted. I remembered the times Sarah had brushed off my concerns about her late nights, or the way she would roll her eyes when I asked if she was okay. How could I have been so blind? My heart ached with the realization that I had put my trust in someone who had been so willing to shatter it. The more I thought about her betrayal, the more I felt a fire ignite inside me. Revenge became a thought that wouldn't leave my mind. I wanted to make her feel what I felt, the sharp sting of betrayal, the hollow emptiness of love turned sour. I started to formulate a plan that would not only show her the pain she had caused, but also give me some sense of closure. I didn't want to just confront her again. I needed to expose her in a way that would make her see the consequences of her actions. My plan took shape over a few sleepless nights filled with brainstorming and strategizing. I knew I had to tread carefully. I didn't want to stoop to her level, but I needed her to realize what she had lost. After a week of pondering, I decided that the best way to get back at Sarah was to turn the tables. I was going to make her think I was moving on, that I had found someone else. I started by changing my routine. I began hanging out with friends more often, going out to bars, and letting the word spread that I was ready to mingle. I even created a profile on a dating app, but I was careful not to engage too deeply, just enough to feed the rumor mill. I could see the change in her as the days passed. Sarah was no longer the same confident woman she had been. Now, every time I returned home late, I could sense the tension in the air. She would glance at me sideways, her eyes filled with uncertainty. It felt good to watch her squirm a little, to see her grasping at straws as she tried to maintain her facade of indifference. One night, I decided to take it a step further. I invited a friend over. Someone I knew Sarah had met before but didn't know well. We planned a casual get-together, but I made sure to flirt just enough to send the right signals. As the evening went on, I could see Sarah's discomfort grow. She tried to play it cool, but her fake laughter and forced smiles betrayed her. Deep down, I knew she was feeling the same anxiety I had felt when I discovered her messages. "Jake, why don't you introduce me to your friend?" Sarah said, trying to sound casual. "Sure, this is Lisa. We just met a few weeks ago. She's great company," I replied, flashing a smile at Lisa. I could see Sarah's jaw tighten at my casual tone, and it thrilled me. My heart raced. This was working. The next day, Sarah confronted me, the mask slipping. "You know, it's not fair to bring someone else into this mess. If you're trying to make me jealous, it's working. I can't stand the thought of you with someone else," she snapped, her voice laced with frustration. "Why? You had no problem with Mike," I shot back, reveling in the moment. It was satisfying to see her flounder, grappling with the guilt that I hoped was gnawing at her insides. Her reaction was a mixture of anger and desperation. "You're being ridiculous, Jake. Just because I was being friendly doesn't mean I want to leave you. You know I love you," she pleaded, but I could hear the cracks in her voice. As the weeks passed, I continued my charade. I rarely engaged with Sarah on an emotional level, keeping the interactions brief and surface level. I didn't want to lose myself in her lies again. The more I pulled away, the more agitated she became. I could feel the tension between us building to an explosive point, and I relished every moment. But as I watched her struggle, I realized I was losing something too. It was like I was trapped in a chess game where both players were vying for control, yet it was my heart that was at stake. I had wanted revenge, but now I started to question if this was really the right path. Would this truly satisfy me, or was I just prolonging the inevitable pain? Still, the thrill of the game kept me engaged. I was taking back some control. In a situation where I felt utterly powerless, whether I could ultimately forgive her or not was a question I didn't have the answer to yet. I just knew I had to see this through to the end, no matter where it led me. As the days turned into weeks, the tension in our apartment became almost unbearable. It was like living in a pressure cooker. Every interaction was loaded with unspoken words and hidden resentment. Sarah was trying harder to win me back, which only added to my resolve. I could see her efforts to be sweet and accommodating, but every time she called me babe or tried to cuddle up to me on the couch, it felt disingenuous. It was as if she was trying to act her way back into my good graces, and I was no longer willing to play along. One night, I returned home from a meetup with friends, and I found Sarah sitting alone in the dim light of our living room. She looked up at me with a mixture of hope and despair in her eyes. "Can we talk, please?" she asked softly. The vulnerability in her voice was almost palpable. I shrugged, trying to maintain my distance. "What's there to talk about? You've made your choices." "Jake, I know I messed up. I was stupid. I didn't want to hurt you. She paused, searching for the right words. "I got caught up in the thrill of it all. It didn't mean anything. Please, you have to believe me." Her words felt like a punch to the gut. Caught up in the thrill, you think this is some kind of game. I couldn't help the anger that flared inside me. You had an affair, Sarah. That's not just a mistake, that's a choice. You chose to betray me. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. I want to make things right. I love you, Jake, I do. Please don't throw everything away because of one stupid mistake. Her emotional outburst hit me hard. There was a part of me that wanted to reach out and comfort her, to erase the pain we were both in. But then I remembered the messages I had read, the betrayal that had shattered my trust. You think an apology is going to magically fix everything. You broke something that can't be repaired with words. I'll do anything to earn your trust back. Just give me a chance, she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. I sighed, torn between my desire to believe her and the gnawing doubt that had taken root in my heart. You've already had your chance, Sarah. You blew it. You need to understand that this isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about the principle of trust, and you shattered it. Her shoulders slumped, and I could see the weight of reality settling on her. What do you want from me, Jake? I'm so lost without you. The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted. Part of me craved revenge, while another part of me was exhausted from the emotional turmoil. I felt like I was teetering on the edge of a cliff, and I needed to make a decision soon before I lost my grip altogether. I don't know, Sarah. I really don't. You've given me no reason to trust you again. I finally admitted, my voice low. You've ruined everything. As the conversation fizzled out, I was left with the crushing weight of uncertainty. The game I had been playing had become a dangerous dance of emotions. I didn't want to be the villain in this story, but I also didn't want to be the victim anymore. There was something intoxicating about seeking revenge, but I knew deep down that I had to tread carefully. A few days later, I decided to take a different approach. If I was going to confront Sarah, I needed to do it on my terms. I had been observing her behavior, and I noticed that she would often go out for what she claimed were errands or meetings. I decided to follow her one evening, a plan that was both thrilling and terrifying. As I drove behind her car, I felt a mix of adrenaline and dread. My heart raced as I focused on the road ahead, trying to keep my mind clear. It was a clear night and the streets were quiet. Watching her from a distance, I wondered what I would find. Would she be meeting Mike? The thought sent a jolt of anger through me. She pulled into a small bar downtown, a place I had never been to. I parked a few blocks away and waited, my palms sweating against the steering wheel. Watching her enter, I felt a surge of emotions battling within me. I could feel the weight of my decision as I waited, wondering if I was doing the right thing. After what felt like an eternity, I saw her laughing and chatting with someone inside. My heart sank. I strained to see through the window, and my stomach twisted as I recognized him. It was Mike. The sight was like a dagger to my heart, confirming all my fears. They were sitting close together, their laughter ringing in my ears. The reality of her betrayal hit me like a freight train. I could see the glimmer in her eyes, the way she leaned in as he whispered something to her. It felt like every dream I had been haunted by had just come crashing down around me. I felt a mix of rage and hurt bubbling up inside me. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I had to confront her, but I wanted it to be on my terms. I didn't want to be the one who appeared weak or desperate. I wanted her to know that I was strong enough to walk away, even if it hurt like hell. With a final surge of determination, I made my way into the bar. The noise of the crowd washed over me as I scanned the room for them. When I finally spotted them, my heart raced. They were still deep in conversation, and I felt like the walls were closing in around me. It was time to put my plan into action. As I approached their table, I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I had to make it count. I wanted her to understand the depth of her betrayal. This wasn't just about Mike. It was about the life we had built together and the trust that had been shattered. "Sarah," I said, my voice steady as I interrupted their moment. She turned to look at me, and her expression morphed from surprise to fear as the realization of what she had done sank in. "Jake," she started, but I cut her off. "Save it. We need to talk." Her eyes darted to Mike, who looked equally startled. I could see the panic flickering in Sarah's gaze as she tried to weigh her options. I was done with the games. It was time for her to face the music. The tension in the bar was palpable as I stood there facing Sarah and Mike. The cheerful sounds of laughter and clinking glasses faded into the background, leaving only the thudding of my heart in my ears. Mike glanced at Sarah, then back at me, clearly unsure of what to do. I wasn't about to let them brush this under the rug. "Let's step outside," I said, my voice low but steady. I knew I needed to keep my composure, even though every part of me was screaming in anger and hurt. Sarah hesitated, glancing at Mike as if seeking his permission. I could see the conflict in her eyes, but I wasn't going to let her play the victim here. "Now, Sarah," I insisted, and she finally stood, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world rested on them. She followed me outside, Mike trailing behind like a lost puppy. Once on the sidewalk, I turned to face her. The night air was cool, but all I felt was rage simmering beneath the surface. "What the hell are you doing here with him?" I demanded, feeling the words spill out of me like a rush of water breaking through a dam. "Jake, please," she began, but I wasn't in the mood for her excuses. "Please what? Please tell me you're not cheating on me again, because that's clearly what this is, isn't it?" I stepped closer, my voice rising. "You told me you loved me, yet here you are, laughing and flirting with the guy who broke our marriage." Her face flushed with embarrassment and anger, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "It's not like that," she protested, her voice rising defensively. "I was trying to figure things out. I thought maybe we could be friends. I didn't want to hurt you again." "Friends?" I barked, incredulous. "You were texting him behind my back, Sarah. You were lying to me while playing the victim. This isn't just some misunderstanding, it's a betrayal. You can't just waltz back into my life and pretend everything is okay." Mike shifted uncomfortably behind her, clearly not knowing how to intervene. "Maybe I should go," he said. Quietly, but I shot him a glare that made him rethink his presence. "No, stay. Let's all be honest here," I spat, turning back to Sarah. "You need to hear this. You've dragged me through this emotional hell while you've been out here flirting with someone else. How can you even stand there and try to defend this?" "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "It was just fun, something to fill the emptiness I felt. I thought maybe if I could just have some excitement, it would make things better between us." "Excitement?" I echoed, my heart pounding with disbelief. "You thought cheating would fix our marriage. You thought lying to me would somehow make everything better." "Jake, I'm so sorry," she cried, her voice breaking. "I never wanted this to come between us. I love you, I do. Can't we just try to fix this?" "No, Sarah," I said, my heart heavy. "You've had your chance to fix it and you chose betrayal instead. You've shown me who you really are, and I can't go back to pretending that we can just pick up where we left off." Her face crumpled and I could see the realization dawning on her. "Please don't say that," she begged. "I can change, I'll do anything, just don't leave me." "Leave you?" I replied coldly. "You left me the moment you chose to betray my trust. You've made your bed and now you have to lie in it. I deserve better than this, and I'm not going to stick around to be your second choice or your safety net." Mike finally spoke up, his voice low. "Maybe we should all just take a step back. This isn't helping anyone," he suggested, but I was beyond caring about his opinion. "This isn't about you, Mike. Stay out of it," I snapped, but I could see Sarah's demeanor shift. She stepped closer to me, her eyes pleading. "Jake, please don't do this. I'm begging you. Just give me one more chance to show you that I can be better." I shook my head, feeling my heart shatter into even more pieces. "You've already shown me who you are, and it's not someone I can trust. I don't think I can ever look at you the same way again. You've betrayed me not just with your actions, but with every lie you've told since." The silence stretched painfully between us. I could see the hurt and confusion in her eyes, but I was past the point of wanting to comfort her. The pain of her betrayal was still fresh, and I couldn't allow myself to be lured back into her web of deception. "Jake, please," she whispered one last time, and I could see the desperation etched across her face. I knew this was hard for her to hear, but it was even harder for me to say. "I'm done, Sarah." I took a step back, allowing the space between us to grow. "This is over. You need to figure out what you want, but it doesn't involve me anymore. I can't be part of a relationship built on lies." With one last glance at her, I turned and walked away, feeling the weight of my decision settle heavily on my shoulders. I could hear her voice calling after me, but the further I walked, the quieter it became. As I made my way to my car, the adrenaline coursing through my veins began to fade, replaced by a sense of emptiness. I had confronted her, faced the truth, and let her know exactly how I felt. But there was still a gaping hole inside me where love and trust had once thrived. I drove home in silence, the night air whipping through the open window. I had made my choice, but the emotional aftermath was just beginning. What I had hoped would be a moment of catharsis had only opened the floodgates to a new kind of pain. There was no going back now, and the reality of what lay ahead started to sink in. I was alone, but there was a strange comfort in that. I had taken control of my life, and while the road ahead felt daunting, I was ready to face it. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. I would no longer allow myself to be defined by someone else's betrayal. It was time to reclaim my life, even if it meant walking through the fire first. The days following my confrontation with Sarah were some of the hardest of my life. I had made the choice to walk away, but the emotional residue clung to me like a shadow. The apartment felt empty without her laughter, without the shared moments that once filled our home with warmth. But now, every corner reminded me of the betrayal that had shattered everything we had built together. I spent most of my time at work, throwing myself into projects to distract myself from the reality of my situation. I avoided going home, opting to stay late at the office or grab drinks with friends. On the rare occasion I did return, I felt the crushing silence echoing through the halls. It was as if the walls themselves were mourning the death of our marriage. Friends began to notice my change in demeanor. I could see the concern etched on their faces when they asked how I was doing. I found myself deflecting, offering them the usual "I'm fine" or "just going through a rough patch." But the truth was, I felt anything but fine. I was a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion, and I often wondered if I had made the right decision. One evening, while out with a close friend, I finally broke down. We were at a bar, the kind of place with dim lighting and loud music, where people gathered to drown their sorrows in cheap beer and cocktails. I sat there nursing a whiskey, the amber liquid swirling in the glass as I stared into the depths of my own thoughts. "Jake, you've been quiet tonight," my friend Mike said, leaning forward. "What's going on? You can talk to me." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his concern. "It's Sarah, she betrayed me, man." I confronted her, and it was like everything I thought I knew about our relationship just crumbled. I don't even know how to process it all. He nodded, listening intently as I spilled the details of my heartache, of the dreams that had haunted me for weeks, and the realization that I had been blind to her betrayal. "Have you thought about what you want to do next?" he asked, his voice steady. "I don't know," I admitted, feeling lost. Part of me wants to move on, to find someone who can appreciate me. But there's a part that still aches for the life we had, for what we could have been. "Dude, you have to remember that she chose this. You deserve someone who would never even think about betraying you," Mike replied, his words resonating. "You can't let her actions define your future." His words struck a chord deep within me, sparking a flicker of hope. "You're right, I need to focus on myself, on what I want. It's just hard to let go." "I know, but you're stronger than you think. You'll get through this," he said, raising his glass in a toast to new beginnings. As we clinked glasses, I felt a small sense of relief wash over me. It was a reminder that I wasn't entirely alone in this journey, that I had friends who cared. As the night progressed, I began to loosen up, laughing and sharing silly stories from our college days. For the first time in a while, I felt a flicker of joy, a hint of what life could be like without the burden of betrayal weighing down on me. In the following weeks, I focused on rebuilding my life. I took up new hobbies, started exercising more, and even began to reconnect with friends I hadn't seen in a while. It didn't come without its challenges. I often found myself haunted by memories of Sarah, the good times mixed with the bitterness of her betrayal. But I was learning to carve out space in my heart for healing rather than resentment. I started to view the world differently, taking in the little joys in life that I had overlooked while caught up in my tumultuous marriage. I found solace in the simple things: a good book, a long drive, or a sunset. I realized that I had been so focused on trying to make our relationship work that I had neglected my own well-being. One day, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon an old photo of Sarah and me, smiling together on a hiking trip. The smile on her face was genuine, and for a moment I was transported back to that time when I believed in our future. But instead of feeling the familiar pang of longing, I felt a sense of closure. I understood that while I had loved her dearly, I was no longer that person. I had grown, learned, and realized that my happiness was worth fighting for. I had to give myself permission to let go of the past. As I continued on this path of self-discovery, I decided it was time to have a final conversation with Sarah. I didn't want to harbor any ill will, nor did I want to go on living in limbo. I needed to express my thoughts to find closure in this chapter of my life. I reached out to her, suggesting we meet at a cafe where we had shared many good moments. When I arrived, my heart raced with nerves, but I was determined to stay composed. Sarah arrived shortly after, her expression a mix of apprehension and hope. "Jake," she started, her voice tentative. "Let's just talk," I interrupted gently, needing to set the tone. "I want to be clear about where we stand." We sat across from each other, the familiar warmth of the cafe contrasting sharply with the chill of our situation. "I've thought a lot about everything," I began. "About us, about what happened. And I need you to know that I don't hate you, but I can't pretend that everything is okay after what you did." She nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. "I understand, I messed up. I wish I could take it back. You were my everything. I know you loved me, but love isn't enough. Trust is fundamental in a relationship, and you broke that trust," I said, my voice steady. "I can't stay in a relationship built on lies. It's not healthy for either of us." "I'm sorry, Jake. I know I've hurt you beyond measure. I never wanted to lose you." Her voice was shaky, and I could see the regret etched on her face. "I appreciate that," I replied, trying to soften the moment. "But it's time for both of us to move on. I need to focus on healing and rebuilding my life." Sarah wiped her eyes, a bittersweet smile appearing on her lips. "I wish you all the happiness in the world, Jake. You deserve it." "I wish you the same," I said, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. As we parted ways that day, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I was finally ready to close the door on that chapter of my life. I had confronted the pain, faced my fears, and emerged stronger. While the scars would take time to heal, I knew that I had the power to reclaim my happiness. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hope creeping back in. I could finally see the possibility of a new beginning, and that realization filled me with strength and determination. Now, it was time to embrace whatever came next. I was ready to write my own story, one that didn't involve betrayal but instead celebrated resilience and the power of moving forward. The weeks turned into months, and I focused on rebuilding my life with a renewed sense of purpose. Each day felt like a fresh start, and I was adamant about not letting the shadows of my past define my future. I found solace in the things that once brought me joy: going on hikes, exploring new restaurants, and reconnecting with friends I hadn't seen in ages. It wasn't always easy. There were moments when I'd catch myself reminiscing about the good times Sarah and I had shared, but I quickly reminded myself of the hurt that followed those memories. I was learning to appreciate the lessons that came with heartbreak. Every painful experience was an opportunity for growth, and I was determined to emerge from this stronger. One evening, while out with a group of friends at a local bar, I met someone new. Her name was Mia, and from the moment we started talking, there was an undeniable spark. She had a warm smile and a contagious laugh that immediately drew me in. Unlike my experiences with Sarah, our conversation flowed effortlessly, filled with genuine connection and shared interests. As the night progressed, I found myself opening up to her about my past, about the heartbreak and betrayal I had endured. To my surprise, Mia listened intently, not with judgment but with kindness. "It sounds like you've been through a lot," she said softly. "But I admire your strength. It takes courage to keep moving forward." Her words resonated deeply, and as we exchanged stories, I felt a sense of comfort I hadn't experienced in a long time. It was refreshing to connect with someone who understood the importance of vulnerability and trust. As the weeks turned into months, Mia and I began to date. I took things slow, still cautious of my past, but each time we met, I found myself more captivated by her. There was no pretense, no games, just two people enjoying each other's company. It felt liberating to allow myself to be open and vulnerable again. One afternoon, while we were at a park enjoying the spring weather, I looked over at Mia, taking in the way her hair danced in the breeze and the sparkle in her eyes as she laughed. In that moment, I realized how far I had come. I had transformed my pain into something beautiful, something real. Mia, I said, my voice steady, I know it's still early, but I really like you. You've helped me see that love doesn't have to hurt. I want to explore this with you. She smiled, her eyes bright with warmth. I feel the same way, Jake. I admire your strength and what you've overcome. I'd love to see where this goes. Her words filled me with hope. I knew that while the scars of my past would always be a part of me, they were not my identity. I had reclaimed my life and found joy again amidst the heartache. As our relationship blossomed, I started to reflect on the lessons learned from my experience with Sarah. I understood now that love should never come with conditions, and trust should be the foundation of any relationship. I was determined to create a bond built on honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. Months passed, and as summer rolled in, I felt more at peace with myself than I had in years. I had learned to let go of the anger and resentment that had held me captive, allowing space for growth and happiness. I even found myself thinking about Sarah less frequently, no longer haunted by what could have been. One day, out of the blue, I received a message from her. My heart raced as I opened it. It was simple and straightforward, an apology for the pain she had caused and a wish for my happiness. I paused for a moment, contemplating my response. I took a deep breath, realizing that I had finally reached a place of acceptance. I replied with a brief acknowledgement, letting her know that I appreciated her message and hoped she found her own path to healing. With that, I closed the chapter on that part of my life. For good, as I looked around at my new life, filled with laughter, love, and the thrill of new beginnings, I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me. I had endured the storm, and now I was standing in the sunlight, ready to embrace whatever came next. I learned that life is unpredictable, and while it may deliver heartache, it also offers healing and growth. My advice to anyone facing a similar situation is to take the time to heal, to invest in yourself, and to never settle for anything less than you deserve. In the end, the journey may be long and arduous, but it can also lead you to the most beautiful destinations. I was no longer defined by my past. Instead, I was ready to embrace my future, one filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities.